Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to the program. The National Bureau of Statistics in its latest report says that food price pressure continued into July as all major sub-indexes increased, with food inflation in the country rising by 20.28% year-on-year in July. The Bureau also said that the inflation rate in Nigeria stood at 16.05% in July, down from 16.10% in June. According to the report, inflation dropped by 0.05% in July, making it the sixth consecutive decline in inflation rate since January of 2017. Well, Nigeria's economy should pick up speed this year thanks to stronger oil and agricultural sectors and solid public sector capital spending. However, continuing foreign exchange distortions and policy uncertainty will dampen the expansion, which will remain too meager to dent unemployment and poverty. So, what is happening to Nigeria's economic fortunes? With the Naira's epileptic performance in foreign exchange market, how well is the economic recovery and growth plan working? My name is Abdullahi Ahmad, here to set the agenda and further the discussion. From our studio in Modire Hills, this is On the Spot. Right, let's get to the heart of the matter. Joining us on the spot today is Dr. Ahmed Bawa from the Modire University of Technology. He is our expert and he will be analyzing some of the talking points with us this afternoon. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
It's a pleasure having me.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, viewers.
All right, first and foremost, how would you describe the state of Nigeria's economy at the moment?
Well, I think in one word we will say satisfactory. Because when you want to assess the performance, you need to look at where you were and where you are. As you just introduced from the beginning, you know, at a point in time, our inflation rate had gone up to about 17.something%, which is a record for over 2 decades. We've not had that. The same thing. When you look at unemployment rate also, it has gone to about 20% or thereabout. When you look at it, it has also come down. Also, when you look at the level of productivity and our GDP is also, we are also recovering. 2 years ago, we were into recession to a level that about 2 decades ago, we've not been into that problem. If you look back and reflect back, the worst situation that we had was only in 1983. That's the fourth quarter of 1983. So as far as you can assess as it is now, you can say that the economy is doing better, particularly when you look at also access to foreign exchange, although the exchange rate is not really as it should be from the beginning, where you have about 305, you know, but when you relate to some months back where the exchange rate was about 500 and something naira to $1, now that we have at the interbank official rate is about 305, 306, while at the parallel market you have about 366, 365. So that level also you can see that there are some balances. Well, foreign direct investment also, there is increase in foreign direct investment. Also, if you look at, let me give you an example, the toothpick, when the federal government decided not to allocate dollar to about 41 products, one of which is the toothpick. So the local production was about 4 million sticks. It has moved to about 25 million. You can see that as a result of local production, and also a report has shown that so many of these companies have multiplied in terms of their profitability. So, and also we have a significant adjustment in the economy. So as if you, within that context, you rate the performance say of the government in relation to economics as satisfactory. So as you know, is one of the 3 main agenda that the government is having: security, corruption, and the economy. But as we once discussed in this particular forum, that actually the government by taking economy as an agenda, is rather too large to say that you are taking an economy because as an agenda. Economy encompasses so many things. You know, it has agriculture,
so many factors,
so many elements of that. So I believe that this one of the challenges that we are having in this particular era is as a result of taking the whole economy as an agenda instead of splitting down that into units. For example, we said that we are taking power. You know, we are now taking agriculture. You know that you are now road construction. You are taking education. Well, 4 plus 2, which you have the security and corruption, making 6. Then you now move on with it. But taking the entire economy, you are moving together, you know, is really challenging. And
as in most countries, you see them take it one. When Donald Trump is trying to revive the economy, he says he just wants tax reform, or maybe perhaps infrastructure, maybe perhaps just sticking to specific.
So that is it. And you see, so many are not so enlightened to be able to appreciate the level of decay in the economy, the level of laziness, and the level of dependence on oil money. So when the oil money went bad, you know, it has its own multiplier effect. You know, so many people will tell you that that has led to closure of so many companies. Yes. So many companies will be closed, not really because of the performance of the company, but rather because of the drop in the oil price. So, you know, we don't have adequate revenue, and this therefore means that the purchasing power of the country, including the government as a whole, will now fall down. So, and if the purchasing power is not there, which means there will be no demand for the product that is being produced, what is going to happen? The company must close. In addition to that, also because you now depend on so many things for your raw material from outside, now that the dollar has gone up, it means that the cost of production will naturally move high. By increasing in cost of production, what is going to happen? Definitely people cannot afford, and you have to follow because you don't have money or you don't have access to foreign reserve to be able, or foreign currency to be able to buy your raw material. This is a significant problem that you can hardly adjust. And prior to this also, even food that we eat, the rice that we can produce and other stable food around, we don't produce them, but rather we import and consume. So we are more of consuming. So with that, for you to change this mentality is really difficult. And also, when we see inflation relating to agricultural products, particularly the food stuff, it is a good sign for the economy because this is giving a good price for agricultural commodities. So it's not really something that is bad or the government should do something.
Are you saying inflation as it relates to commodity prices is something that we should be excited about?
Yes, we should be excited about.
I mean, people are digging deeper into their pockets, money they don't have to put food on the table.
Yes, you see, one thing I like with Nigerians are really, really hardworking. If you see how people sweat to earn a living, go to the market, go to labor areas, you see how people are working hard. You know, why is it that somebody will go as a laborer or as a mason to work from morning till evening for a day? He will be paid 1,500 naira as a laborer or 2,500 naira as a mason. He is making an effort. Why? Because he will have this cash. If he is going to apply the same effort in the farm, he is going to earn much more than that, given the current price. But prior to now, you will not get that result. So there is no point of wasting your time to go back to farming. But when the price is good, it's attracting, you must farm for particularly 2 reasons. One is either to prevent yourself from buying it, or 2, as a source of income. So you can see it is now encouraging. So it's not really bad for government to maintain an appreciable level of price. So if, as I always give an example, if the government wants to drop the price of foodstuff, say particularly rice, as it is now, you get a bag of rice at about 14,000, 13,000, 15,000. Yes, the government can achieve that. by dropping the price of a bag of rice to 5,000. That is achievable. How?
And how can they do that?
Yes, they will simply lift the ban on the importation of rice. And also, you don't need to have a license. They will give an open ticket.
But Nigerian rice cannot compete with imported rice because of the quality and because of the taste of most people in the public who want imported rice on their
I don't know,
table.
have you ever tasted Aba rice?
I wouldn't know which rice I'm actually eating, but
the rice that's even processed, Aba is very good rice, can compete favorably with the foreign rice. And also,
should we allow that? Should we allow that kind of competition at the moment?
No, we can't. We need to protect our market. It's global. That is what is happening. What is Donald Trump doing now? He is protecting the economy of US. That all right, we must come back. We must manufacture. We must protect our industry. We must look inward. That's what he's doing. And if America, as developed as they are, as advanced as they are in technology, they are trying to protect their own economy. Trade agreements, they are trying to change free trade agreements between, even in the North America, not to talk of with Europe and other continents of the world. So they are making changes. Why? They are doing that in order to protect their own economy. So we have no option but to protect our own economy. This is a right step at the right direction. I don't think that the government should consider changing policy as it relates to the ban on the importation of...
as it relates to the importation, I mean, how long is this effect going to last? Because as a result of the closure of the borders to, importation of rice and other commodities, I mean, businesses have had to close down. A lot of people whose businesses rely heavily on importation have had to close down. How long will this effect have?
Yes, you cannot indefinitely allow yourself to be dependent on importation. You must do something, and you must start somewhere. People must feel the pain of doing that.
How long is this going to last? Because a lot of people have a feeling that this is going to be the situation as long as this administration is in power.
No, it's not about this administration. You see, that's why I'm saying a lot of people are not enlightened enough to be able to know how economy and finance work. If you expect this change to happen in 8 years, you are joking. It's not possible for you to achieve that in 8 years. To provide adequate infrastructure is not a small thing for you that will contain the economy. But what we are saying is, when you look at power, you are doing a stop. People using the little resources that we have, people will have no option. If only one is to undertake a study of the number of people that were farming in 2015, look at the number of people that farmed in 2016, and look at the number of people that are farmed in 2017, you will see that, I believe you will see an appreciable increase. And it means that as it goes on, people will now still be moving back to farm, and we are going to have significant improvement. All that we are praying now is to have a government like that in 2019, and to also have the government like that subsequently. You see, it is very, very easy to criticize, but the economy is very complex, particularly with our diversity in Nigeria. That diversity was also made to be a serious problem by corruption, such that people hide under religion, people hide under ethnicity to defend what they have done wrongly. We have seen people that were convicted in other countries, but when they came back to this country, they were celebrated. So anybody that has a problem would now attach sentiment to it, whatever. So with that, you see, for you to effect the changes that is required, for you to fight that corruption, the corruption will fight back. And those how
does corruption negatively affect the sluggish growth in Nigeria's economy?
That is a serious blow, because one, corruption will lead to what you call lack of recognition of merit. So things would not be done on the basis of merit. So, sorry, let me divert it a little. For example, I don't want to believe it's corruption, but indirectly or otherwise, JAM reduced the score to 120 as a minimum. Yes, it's minimum, but what does that mean? The minimum came from somewhere to inform their decision, which means that probably there are universities that are willing to take up to less than 120. Sorry, it's my personal opinion. You see, most of the public universities, I don't think they will go further than 160. I believe most universities will maintain the minimum cutoff point at 180. So, what does that mean? It means that there are universities that are interested in picking 120 for profit motive. So, but when you have a standard of 180, they will have no option but to go by 180, since that's the provision. So many parents have the capacity for alternative university whose children scored less than 180.
You're talking about private universities.
That's my opinion, as I'm saying. So now, but some of the private universities may not be seen, they may not like to be seen admitting below the requirement of the JAM. So, but if JAM pronounces 120, so whatever they take, you know, it will be within the limit. And also, they will even like JAM to be abolished so that there will be no cutoff point. Why? Because why should I reduce my cutoff point to 120 and another university is taking 180? That will be a measure of standard as well. So that is going to announce. So therefore, to me, my thinking as well, also my opinion, the private university will prefer there is no JAM, so that you now take any student that you so wish, and this therefore is going to increase your profitability. So these are some of the things that merit will be downplayed. And also, monies that are supposed to be channeled to other purposes will be redirected to other purposes. We're all witnesses to see what we have, the budget padding in billions of nairas. And when you see billions of nairas, and also we have seen an individual siphoning over 7 billion or thereabout. Of recent, we have had also a court, the appeal court rather, give the verdict for the federal government to have to take over 7-point-something billion of someone who was a petroleum minister. You see, these are monies that were siphoned. Some people kept millions of dollars. You see how money works also. By the time you put 1 million naira, you see it as only 1 million naira, but it's going to work for more than 1 million. That is to say that if I should borrow 1 billion, I'm going to use the money. By the time I use the money, it's going to some people. They will also use that 1 million. So that 1 million naira, the transaction in the economy may turn to about 7 million naira.
The stimulus.
That is it. Yeah. So, but by the time you take it away, it's a leakage. And that leakage goes together with the multiplier benefit that will come from it. And also, the illicit transaction, illicit money that you see, money laundering that you see, people will be encouraged to do the wrong thing. People will be encouraged to imagine that there is shortcut to success. These ritual killings here and there, you see people trying to make money. It's because of the level of corruption. They will see somebody doing nothing or entering into politics without anything. All of a sudden, after becoming one thing or elected, you now begin to build houses, build this thing. So you would think that that person used ritual to get this money. So people will be engaged into those activities. So there are a lot of problems that are associated with corruption. In fact, it's the major issue that we're having. People's decision will be compromised, so much so that, to my thinking, as long as you have money, you can do anything. and get away with it.
Let's talk about the inflation rate and how it is sending mixed messages. I mean, we just talked about how the inflation rate is down to about 16.05 or thereabout percent, and how, with regards to price of food commodities, here exactly dropping to 16.05%. Earlier this year it was at 17.65%, but now it's a bit down. But you look at the commodity prices and how the inflation is at 20.05%. It's as if the average is still appreciable. Like you said, quite satisfactory. Things are coming down slowly, but I mean, the most basic, the fact that people have to put food on the table. I mean, that is something that concerns them the most. And how can we bring that down? So much so that as the economy tries to recover, Nigerians adapt with the current situation.
Yes, yesterday I was watching news. I saw a fertilizer company was launched, as well as a cement company. This is a good step. And as we're saying, what the government is required to do is to put more efforts on agriculture. More effort on agriculture, because that is what is going to employ more people. So by the time you have more production, in that, it is naturally going to stabilize. We don't, as I'm saying again, we don't encourage the price of foodstuff to come down. We want the price to motivate people to look at farming as an occupation, as a profession to venture into.
You're saying the prices should be an appetizer for people to want to become
farmers, so that you can afford to say, look, I am going to leave TV Gotel to go and farm. But as it is now, it's not that you don't want to farm, but what will be the associated benefit that will come from farming? After putting your effort in farming, what is going to be the result? The determinant of success in farming is the price of the commodity. When you hear Chevron, Mobil, and all these giant oil companies that are making profit in billions of dollars, it's not for anything. It's because they control it and they control the price. That is why they make such kind of profit. So also, if the farmers can control and make that kind, many people will move to that direction. Should you have an offer now with any of the oil giant companies, I don't think you will hesitate to pay your 1 month or 3 month salary in lieu of notice and you leave. Why? Because it is going to be attractive. They are going to pay you very well. The same thing, if farming is attractive, people will be able to pay very well.
But then again, there's the problem of the capital involved, and then we have to talk about the people who cannot afford to farm because they do not have the capital.
I still have this. I've observed this problem with our mentality. Most of us feel that we need to start it big. That is not how life is. You must start somewhere. You must give in your commitment. You must be determined to achieve in what you want to do. You don't expect government to do everything for you. As I am saying, if the price is good, you wouldn't mind to go and borrow from bank at double-digit interest rate. You can borrow as high as 20%. If the pricing is good, you can get the money, you go and farm, you pay your interest and still get your money.
But it's agriculture. There are no guarantees. You could have a bad cropping season, bad harvesting season, and things like that. There are no guarantees.
There are no guarantees.
And the banks are not giving out loans as much as they used to.
It's not that they are not giving, but people don't go for them. And those that go for the loan, the constraint is they don't really engage into agriculture. Because of our way of life, we are not really financially disciplined. I think, in my own opinion,
as a government or as a people?
No, as a people. Just take, if you are going to take a study now, take something, say foodstuff, rice, to go and sell on credit. Let's say, for example, go to either Federal Secretariat, State Secretariat. You will see people who come and collect the rice on credit. Instead of taking it home for consumption, they will go and sell it out at the market at a lower price in order to get the liquid cash to spend elsewhere. A classical example, there was a time when loan was provided, a laptop was provided to secondary school teachers on loan. I think it was about 80,000 plus or thereabout. But there and then, as they collect the loan, they will now be selling the laptop at 40,000 naira, at 35,000 naira. They are willing to pay 80,000 naira or more in return of getting 30 to 40,000 naira now. So that is because we are not financially disciplined. People are not financially disciplined. I always say, the lower you earn, the more the reason you need to save. You can argue, no, the minimum wage is how much? It's 18,000. The minimum, supposing one is earning the minimum wage of 18,000, that's the more reason why you must save. You must save in the high rate than the other person that is earning much more. Why?
I mean, if the government, if
let me explain to you this way.
Exactly.
Supposing you are earning that 18,000, what stops you from saving 17,000? You say that 18,000 is not enough for you. How do you save 1,000 naira? The issue is, should you be sacked, you'd have lost the whole of 18,000. Should government come out with a policy that, all right, we are going to cut down our salary because of the economic problem that we are having by 1,000 naira, 17,000, would that stop you from working? You will not resign. You continue to go ahead with your life.
But do you believe people have enough to be able to save? I mean, people are living paycheck to paycheck. And even at that, there's a lot of debt on, you know, the concurrent...
That's what I'm saying. All this... at this level, we are talking about national life.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't talk about micro. But so sometimes there are people, also your audience, that you need to educate, maybe particularly in our own area. You see, what stops you in the evening from going out to your farm during the rainy season with your family? You go and pick, if it is kuka, if it is lalo, if it is this, alejo and others, to come and dry them. That will take you for the rest of the season. What will stop you from farming little groundnuts that you'll be able to use? What will stop you from farming little, you know, in the evening you don't need something big. At least that will be able to supply food for you to be able to farm. But unfortunately, even those that are living in the local government areas where you have a lot of farmers, you see people lying idle. Walk across the street in this town, different street. By 4 o'clock, you see people sitting down, doing nothing, sitting idle. But relate that to some areas. If you go, you hardly see people. If you travel out of this country, in the afternoon, you don't see anybody on the street. Everybody is busy doing something. Is engaged, you know. So, but it's not our attitude. So that is, by the way, what we are saying at the national level. You know, you need to strike a balance between reducing inflation and encouraging people to go and farm. If you see how people labor to dig for gold, you'll be surprised. The effort they put in manually. Because why? There's a lot of money in it. So this is it. So you must strike a balance between the two. Naturally, at local level, we wouldn't mind to have the food prices come down as low, in fact, if possible, free. But who is going to farm those items? If you are going to import, it means you are engaging people outside the country. You are making them to be employed. How do you reach a certain level of efficiency? How do you reach a certain level of productivity? You need to start somewhere. You now begin to improve. So private sector will now be coming in. The government will now be coming in. Gradually, you reach to a level. And if the government is consistent, sometimes policies that are good for the economy, for the people, for a nation, may not be popular. But it takes a leader to withstand these things. Let me give you an example. It is possible that if there is a change in government, because that government wants to be popular, they will now say, all right, we are opening the borders around this. Even at the moment, I still have my reservation with the amount of money, or amount of dollars that is pumped into the market, the foreign exchange market, in order to stabilize the naira.
All right, we
have now, the CBN now, over the years now, have pumped about $9 billion into the foreign exchange market. But what is happening? We are still having about 305, and then also about 360 something. So instead of making such huge, although it's late now, so for policy consistency, we'll say, all right, let them do. But there is what we call escalation of commitment. You have taken a decision, you know, but that decision is wrong. You know, in order to satisfy the people, you still investing a lot in the decision that they have taken, even though it is not really the right decision. So that is exactly what is happening. And efforts are being made as much as possible. We say go ahead to go in order to do that. But the issue is we are taking ourselves back to the previous by encouraging consumption.
All right, we still have some more to talk about. I feel like we're just getting the discussion started. You're watching On The Sport on TV Gotel from our studio in Modire Hills. We're having a discussion about the state of the Nigerian economy with Dr. Ahmed Bawa. There's still some more of this discussion after this very short break. Stay with us.
My name is Charles Doke. I report for TV Gotel. It is important to have a bureau in Abuja because this is the seat of government. This is where all major decisions are taken by government. It is a big pot where you have everything that makes the big story in news. And we owe it a duty to Nigerians to dish these stories out to them as they come.
Welcome back to the program. This is On The Sport on TV Gotel. We're discussing the state of the Nigerian economy as it relates to slow growth, inflation rate, and of course a whole lot of other issues. With regards to the impact of some of the economic policies of the APC administration at the national level and how that is transforming the lives of Nigerians through the impact of the economy. And of course, we're taking a look at our recovery from recession. And given the fact that according to the National Bureau of Statistics, inflation is coming down, well, a whole lot of other economic forecasts too has put Nigeria's growth rate in a positive light. But of course, there's a lot of complaints out there in the public domain with regards to the basic things, food commodity or commodity prices, skyrocketing at the moment. And Dr. Ahmed Bawa, our guest today, says I think that that's actually good for Nigeria's economy going forward, that food prices are going up. Perhaps it might stimulate people's interest into agriculture. Now, give us a sense of the direction of this administration. I mean, we've had the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan released a few months ago. With regards to impact, I mean, the budget and a whole lot of other capital projects are supposed to come on board. I mean, do you foresee an economy that is going to finally recover and progress based on what we've been able to see? I mean, we were talking about the foreign exchange market during that short break and how the CBN's continues to find a way to somehow think that they can sustain the tempo by putting in more dollars in the foreign exchange market to keep the naira afloat. I mean, with all of that economic inconsistencies and some of the policies working and some of them not working to the expectations of the administration and the people, I mean, how does our economic forecast look like?
Well, in court, our economic forecast is not as bleak as it used to be. But that is not to say that is really very, very good. And the contributing factor is really us, the citizens of the country, because we lack commitment in what we are doing. We lack proper education on what is happening, such that good policies will not be appreciated. And also we have, as I've said earlier, those that were engaged in corruption. The government is trying to fight corruption. So, and those people will use all the resources they have available to discredit the government, to portray the policies of the government as being bad. Also, there is an opposition party. Don't forget that they were the leading party. They were the party in power. They were very strong, and they are still very strong. They would like to come back, so, and therefore they will criticize the government left, right, and center.
Is this about criticism or sabotage?
But, you know, when you talk about criticism, so one, you see, there will be constructive criticism, and there is going to be a destructive criticism. And this destruction, yes, government, one of the major achievements that was made by the government was actually fighting the Boko Haram, you know, but you can see the evil is still trying to come back. I don't want to say I don't have a fact, but I think the group must be funded by some people. One cannot say who. You can see the ugly face of independent peoples of Biafra, the ugly face of quit notice that these people will go. Also, from time to time you hear...
And all this has economic implications,
definitely right? Have economic implications, because people will not have confidence in the economy. When there is no political stability, there is no security, adequate security in the country, you find it very difficult. You know, naturally with the kidnap, here and there, people will find it very difficult to travel freely. Imagine Kaduna and Abuja with this level of the kidnapping. People are afraid of moving. So this, even there is no free movement of goods and services here and there, is really a challenge. So with that, however, if we take item by item on what the government has done, we'll say that they are really providing and they are making effort to see the economy improves. You know, one of which is the good governance and efficiency in the management of government by trying to first introduce the Treasury single account. It was a very good measure that has, to a very large extent, saves a lot of money, saves cost of borrowing by the government. Besides that also, if you notice and observe, there are basically two major policies that government had at hand to play with, and that is the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. If you observe the trend of the fiscal monetary policy, you can see that they are having the contraction policy, so they are contrasting, and that is why you see the monetary policy rate remaining at 14%. That also means that the interest rate remaining at a higher rate. By so doing, it is aimed at attracting foreign inflow into the economy.
How so? How so? Because so many critics say, I mean, we need to review this if we're going to give room for small businesses to be able to grow, you know, profitably.
Yes, don't forget that there is a window that is given to priority industries, particularly manufacturing, mining, and quarrying. So, in fact, even yesterday, a loan of about 5 billion naira was granted to the mining sector. So these are deliberate policies. You have target, and in fact, even those that are investing in, say, refineries and others, they get some favorable rate of exchange, that's the exchange rate. Some get as low as 200 naira to $1. So with that, now you select areas that you have your priority, and the objective, whoever that is interested will be treated fairly. But naturally, some people argue against that, let everything be flat. So that is a way. And under the fiscal policy, if you look at it, they adopt the expansionary policy. How? By the budget amount, when you see in 2016, the budget figure was about 6.08 billion, and that was record figure. Then in 2017, we have about 7.44 trillion. That also was a record figure. Also, if you look at the pattern of expenditure, last year, the capital allocation to capital expenditure was about 1.8 trillion, while in 2017, the capital expenditure was allocated about 2.2 trillion. All figures.
Yeah, then there's the impact of poor budget implementation, which also
is that I think it was really the implementation of a significant part of 2015 and also 2016 budget. You know, there was, they dragged it, but it was implemented also in 2017. So I have not read a full report, but from the little assessment, it appears that the allocation of federal capital project is close to about 40 to 50%, you know, implementation. And I think
drawing comparison with
other developing
is
the best. No,
is that the best we can do?
Is the best in comparison to the previous years that we had, both in terms of amount allocated and in terms of implementation. The same thing also, the releases that we have for capital project this year, if it will continue, it will be very good for the country because it's really appreciable. You know, one thing with at federal level, if policies be implemented, if you are not directly involved, you will not feel the impact. So
why is that?
Say, for example, if road is being, a railway line is constructed from Lagos, Ibadan, Ilorin, for those of us in the Northeast, how do we feel? Can we feel that? No, you don't feel direct impact in that particular.
I mean, if we transact businesses with people from Lagos, it should change the dynamics.
That is, but if you have railway or rail line from Yola to Lagos, then that is how well you feel it. So that cannot be done simultaneously, you know. So you have one challenge. So with this policy that they have taken, and also when you look at the variable they use, 2017, the exchange rate was about 305, while in 2016, the exchange rate was about 197. The dollar per barrel also, you know, we have significant improvement. We also have improvement in our foreign reserve. You know, it has fell down to about $2.2 billion, but has risen to about 4 or something billion.
Now they actually, the foreign reserve is at almost 31 billion.
31 billion from 2 point something to billion that has come down as a result of effort to stabilize the economy. Oh, sorry, 20-something billion.
Yeah, 27, exactly, 20-something, 24 billion.
Yeah.
But I mean, as much as we're saving more, the government has been involved in some heavy borrowing that you have pointed out as is, very, very detrimental. Not just the federal government, but even state governments have been involved in, funding so many projects that are not quite sustainable using borrowed money. In the long run, what kind of
I don't think I said borrowing is really bad. You know,
the money, the item we spend the money that we borrowed on.
But I think borrowing, even if you earn, you can still borrow. What, like developed nation, for example, America, they always borrow, but they have assets to back up the borrowing. So that does not mean that you can't borrow. It's your money. So, but you are keeping this money in order to provide assurance to the lenders that yes, you have the capacity to pay, that will be able to also stabilize your currency, that in case of anything, your currency will be able to, you'll be able to use that reserve to offset whatever liability that you have also. And also in case of need, where you cannot borrow, you can use what you have saved. So the approach, I think we need to borrow to invest in economic projects. That is to say, projects that will be able to pay themselves back. For example, what should stop the government from borrowing enough money? they will be able to have Mambila hydroelectric project completed. What should stop us from having other projects like that completed?
I mean, those projects... You have a foreign reserve that is almost $31 billion at the moment. I mean, what stops you from dipping into your pocket and funding those projects? Why should I borrow so much when I can afford it from my own pocket?
That is what I'm telling you.
What is the rationale behind doing that?
That is when you borrow, you free your money. Borrowing is also a form of sources of fund. Let me tell you this way for our viewers to understand. If I'm going into business and there is a project that I would invest 100 million into. So when I look left and right, since I have the cash, instead of going to go and buy goods to come and resell using my 100 million, I would rather take this 100 million and invest in that project and then borrow the stock. If I had used my money to buy the stock, cash, I would not have had enough money to be able to invest in a profitable project. There are projects that are not economic in nature, which means you cannot get benefit from them. You
infrastructure, for instance.
Infrastructure for road construction. So even road construction, you can commercialize road by building toll gates from here and there. You can recover your money from them. But provision of education, which is one of my major reservations with this government. If you ask me, I will rate the government very poor in terms of education. They have not done enough to show really that they are committed to education, and education is one of the things that needs to move this country forward. That the government has done very badly in terms of education. So that will require a lot of money, and you will not see direct benefit that will be coming from it. So in that instance, you don't usually use borrowed funds to finance such kind of projects. But where you have an economic project, a project that will be able to pay for itself, why not? It's just like any other private individual, because you cannot have enough money to do everything.
Yeah, exactly. The federal government has been criticized for micromanaging every situation. It wants to be in charge of the economy 100%. I mean, it wants to have its hands on importation, on this and that, allowing the private sector very little room to operate. And as a free economy, I mean, we should expect the private sector participation go up much higher, so that government will have very little to do other than to regulate and observe as well as supervise the growth of the economy. I mean, what's your take with regards to the private sector's role in the APC administration in trying to recover this economic growth that we're talking about? Well,
I have not undertaken a serious study or looked into that aspect. However, I will say that from just the little readings that I have, is not really encouraging in that direction. That is in terms of private sector participation. But I believe it is the intention of the government to diversify the economy, part of which is the investment that they are making in infrastructure. And I think for effective participation of the private sector in the economy, you need those particular infrastructure. I am not of the opinion that private sector should take up everything, but rather private sector should be allowed to compete in some instances with the government, and the government should withdraw gradually from whatever that is being taken.
Have you seen anything that indicates that is going to happen?
Well, from what I have seen yesterday, the fertilizer plant that was commissioned by the Vice President, as well as the cement plant that was commissioned by the Vice President in Ode State, was in conjunction with the state government, the federal government, as well as the private individual. That has been handed over. Those two companies were handed over to private individuals to manage the companies. So I think it's a sign of the government trying to do that. And also, as I said earlier, just yesterday, the government has disbursed about 5 billion naira to mining sector to encourage the private sector. These are private individuals that will now have access to the money. So you see, this is also encouraging. In addition to that also, the little investment or credit that is being provided to agricultural sector, I believe also is a way to encourage the private sector to take up. And also the concessionary exchange rate that is given to some of the industries, particularly those that are interested in power development, those that are interested in the production of crude oil, as no refining of crude oil. If you want to establish your refinery, they are giving this construction, they are encouraging private sector, and I believe that a private sector has gone far in trying to have its own refinery. And also the policy of the government, that is to say that they will give the smaller cottage refining companies crude oil allocation at a considerable rate. That also, I believe, is as encouragement. So what I'm saying, I have not really studied particularly the implementation, the economic recovery and growth plan, to be able to link it to in practice, because part of it is actually is to encourage the private sector and the economic stability as well, you know. But that thing is launched, I think, in 2017, or rather towards the end of 2016. And the policy document is for 2017 to 2020 in relation to medium-term expenditure framework the government is having. And I believe also the government is using the medium-term expenditure framework to develop its own annual budget, at least for 2016 and 2017. We have seen that happening. So, but to be specific on one or two things outside what I told you, I have not gone deep into that. So therefore, I will not be able to assess the government on that particular area.
We just have a minute to spare, but I have to ask you this about the foreign exchange market. I have so much concern with regards to what the CBN is doing in trying to manage, the foreign exchange sector of the economy. As it relates to the Naira, I mean, this is something that we have huge questions about the sustainability of the CBN's move to always pump in more of the greenback whenever the Naira is not doing very well. I mean, what's your take on the sustainability of the Naira as it relates to the exchange market?
You see, the issue of exchange rate is a very complex matter. You know that if you go back history, one of the major reasons why Buhari government was overthrown in 1983 was his insistence to maintain the exchange rate, stable exchange rate, that is fixed exchange rate. So, and what is required of you, which means there is foreign interest, multinational interest in that particular issue. And it is also expected that on foreign exchange, you must be consistent with your policy. Not that today you have this policy, tomorrow you change to this policy. Well, I was of the opinion, because we have seen it in other countries like Nigeria, although they have the level of reserve, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and other countries like that, the exchange rate has been fixed for the past 20 years, has been the same. So we can, why don't we have things like that? We have been seeing the value of Naira falling down, despite the fact that we have appreciation in the value of our crude oil. So I don't know, my reservation, as I've said, when we have stability earlier on, I have my reservation on the ability of CBN to be able to maintain this policy, because the demand for dollar in this country is not really as a result of transaction, but the demand mainly is for the storage of value. People buy dollar, not really for transaction, but for the purpose of keeping the money. And also, I don't have any fact, but it's my thinking that the previous government that were there, CBN, my thinking still, poor dollars today, people that were in the government. So they are now having dollars kept. So now it is our own time. APC, we are in power. So we have our ministers, we have this and that. They also have to, they need to stock dollars in their own houses. So the CBN must continue to pump in dollars. Yeah. They are having nairas, illegally or legally, so they will have the capacity to buy the dollars. They are also now accumulating the dollars. Okay. That is my thinking, as I've said. Probably, and that is why we are having dollars pumping into the market. I have not seen the economy where within the short period of time we'll have $9 billion pumped into the foreign exchange market, and still we are struggling by upward movement and the value of dollar. 360. So, yeah. To cut the story short, Nigeria is a very, very complex country. And I think it takes a lot. It takes a leader that has the courage and capacity to say no to certain things. All right. And I believe we have one.
And I hope that at the end of the day, the ability of this administration to turn it, the exchange rate from $1 to $1. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but that was a political promise that was made.
It's a gist. You know that it's not possible. We don't have the capacity to be able to back that. However, government can pronounce that and nothing will happen.
Okay, that's where we're going to have to leave it. Dr. Ahmed, as always, thank you very much for your economic insight on the discussion. All right, and this is where we anchor today's edition of the program. We're looking forward to seeing you next time. On The Sport, we'll be back live and exclusive only on TV Gotel. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you soon.